the Elven Star. This is mystery number 6. And it follows a previous exercise which we've done in mystery number 4, which was to begin the process of pulling everything together. The life events and the people and the spiritual moments and all the places we've been and lived. How does that actually tie in? How can we understand all of that as an integral whole, where we have followed the soul's imperative in a circuitous route, doing this, that, and the other, not really ever knowing what we're doing and why. Not yet, but we're coming to a point in Mystery 4 where we're just piecing it together a little bit. Now in Mystery number 6, we've come to a higher level with that. We want to see all of this retrospectively, looking at our life and also knowing where we are now and where we might want to go in a visionary sense from the perspective of the soul. So we have to somehow engage with our thoughts and our feelings as a soul. We are soul, using this vehicle of a personality and a body in order to have experiences in this world. So let's see if we can move ourselves into the consciousness of the soul as we piece together all the bits and pieces of our lives and study that systematically with the 7 Elven Star Sabian Symbols and the 7-word system. And if we can pull those all together and present ourselves to the world from the soul's perspective with awareness of all of that together. It's a task. It is by no means a straightforward task. And it's probably best for me just to see if I can do it myself, to give you an example of the kind of exercise necessary. And I think that's probably the quickest way to explain how this all comes together. I've done a lot of preparatory work in order to be able to do this, of course. So I've got a list of all the people with whom I've had involvements, people who've touched me in some way and just moved me along in a slightly different path. It might not be any more than a 5-minute conversation. It might be a 10-year relationship. Whatever. Some people have moved me and the rest did not. So I made a list of all those with whom I found my involvement to have significance. I've also made a list of all the places that I've lived and all the places that I've seen. And I've tried to recall especially significant spiritual moments in my life. And I've pieced all of this together, and I've come up with this sense of myself and certain strands of activity and attitude and involvements. They repeat and they evolve and they clearly represent a significant strand of who and what I am. So in trying to understand myself, I'm trying to pull all of these strands into an integral whole, to weave them into the pattern of my life in order to identify the greater picture from the soul's perspective. Having done that, I've come to this understanding, which I will offer in brief terms. Although I must say this included quite a lot of trial and error, piecing it together, thinking this, thinking that, and changing my mind. It's not straightforward. It's a job. It's a big job. Anyway, this is what I've come up with. My sun is at the 16th degree of Taurus. And so I'm looking at the septiles of the 16th degree of Taurus. And we're studying those now. So the root position, the sun's position, is Taurus 16, an old man attempting vainly to reveal the mysteries. So this is my constant difficulties I've had in getting my point across, getting anybody to see things from my point of view. And rather than just put up with that frustration or consider this a failure, because of this failure in a sense, or inability to have myself understood, I've tried to find different ways of expressing myself. And that's the mystery here. I've looked at all sorts of studies. I've looked at astrology and NLP, and I've been a dancer and a musician, and I've been an accountant, and I've tried all sorts of things in my life. And until I actually come to the understanding that it needs to be original, it needs to be new material, because the old stuff just doesn't work for me. Repeating what other people have taught me, for example, that didn't move me forward anywhere. Just repackaging other information that I've taken from books and so on, that didn't work either. I had to come up with my own way of explaining how it is for me, this life experience that I'm having. So the old man's frustration, in a sense, in not being able to be understood, was the necessary kick I needed, the trigger that forced me, really, it certainly encouraged me to try and find a new and original approach to the whole question of the meaning of life. So that's Taurus 16 for me. Now my second mystery is Cancer 8, rabbits dressed in clothes and on parade. This is the mystery of finding a guide. The whole idea of like fake it till you make it. You find a guide and you follow the guide by doing what they do, saying what they say, thinking what they think. And until that actually feels to some extent embodied. So now I think that way, now I do those things normally, naturally. I've actually taken on what they taught me to some extent. And to another extent, just rejecting some of it. So I've used the agency of following a guide in order for me to develop an understanding. So the word hello is appropriate here. The expansion of ideas, the expansion and clarifying of mind. This comes from saying hello to new people, saying hello to new ideas. So for me, the rabbits dressed up on parade is my Sabian symbol that describes that I did that by looking for guidance from many different people over the course of my life in that process of fake it till you make it and reject it if it's not yours, shall we say. The third mystery in my Elven Star is Leo 29, the mermaid. And the mermaid responds enthusiastically, excitedly to new experiences all the time. And when you consider this in relationship to the third word in the 7-word system, which is thank you, and the keywords of appreciation and developing values, opening the heart, and giving to show appreciation. I not only follow guides as I did in Mystery 2, I also get enthusiastic about people who are doing things in their own life differently from me. And I respond enthusiastically to that. And I respond enthusiastically to new opportunities. I've always been like that. I've always wanted to try something out and to try and put into the world the thoughts and ideas and feelings that I have. I've tried them out enthusiastically. I think anything that we do which is not enthusiastic cannot be soul organized. It cannot be soul consciousness. The soul is enthusiastic. The soul is enthusiasm, personally. So expressing gratitude and appreciation and so on for other people that I meet and other opportunities that are presented, if it's not touching my excitement, if I don't feel enthusiastic, I simply won't do it. Even when I was working with a proper job, there was a time when I was very enthusiastic about accountancy and business management and so on, really enthusiastic. It's what I love to do. And that enthusiasm dried up and I was left with a position of some importance and making money, and I just had no appetite to go to work. And I realized that one morning. I got up one morning and I thought to myself, I don't want to go to work. Now, it was my business, it's my own business, but I just didn't want to go. I didn't want to do that anymore. And I went out into the garden and sat by a honeysuckle bush. And I just hadn't done any meditation in my life before, but I just watched the bees come and go, and I smelled the aroma of the honeysuckle, and I saw the beauty. And that's what my enthusiasm was drawing me to, that sense of appreciation of beauty. And I was so enthusiastic to follow this new idea, this thing about meditation and appreciation of beauty, and this was all new to me. Within 2 days, I'd given up my business. I'd got rid of it, and I had to sell my house. I had no income. I had to go on the road, but nevertheless, I was enthusiastic about that whole process. Now, the fourth Elven Star Mystery for me is Libra 20. This is the Jewish rabbi. And the message of that degree is following traditional wisdom. So whereas I'd put myself on the road, I'd moved away from my mainstream kind of life into a life of adventure and discovery, nothing really did very much to bind me into a course of decisive, crystallized activity. I was flitting about. I was trying a bit of this and a bit of that. But when it came to a time when I was in touch with traditional teachings of a spiritual kind, in my case it was the Sufi expression of zikr. The Sufi teachings do this practice called zikr, and I did that for 1 hour one day on a camp, and it changed everything. It was exactly what I'd always been yearning for. And it was traditional, quite surprising for me in a sense, because I didn't think of myself as a traditional person. But what was important in that decision for me was the realization that the guidance that I had been receiving before from genuine guides in Mystery 2 and from any experiences that I happened to come across, shall we say, in Mystery 3. Now I wanted just to see what the real deal looked like. So I'd learned this Sufi practice in England, and I wanted to see the real thing. So I travelled to Turkey, and I found it was possible to meet the Sufis, the real guys over there, and to just find what it looked like when it was in its traditional form. And that was very deeply inspiring for me. It's kind of sharpened my intention and made me much more decisive about trying to learn this practice, learn these teachings, just see if I could somehow embody them. And I made a very definite life decision to follow that path, something I'd never really ever done before until then. Now, Sagittarius 12 is the eagle that, the flag that turns into an eagle and crows. And the crowing is the important part here. The flag is the allegiance, and it turns into an eagle, high-sightedness, and crows. There's an announcement here. So, having come across this traditional teachings, I made a decision about that. You see, the word goodbye in the 7-word system is about making a decision quite often. Well, always, really. Then I had to structure a vision. The 5th word in the 7-word system is please, and it's all about projecting your vision onto the world and finding collaboration for that. So, Libra 20 was the rabbi, Sagittarius 12 is this flag turning into an eagle that crows. And so I found myself announcing that I was on the path. I was willing to explain what I'd understood to other people. I became something of a teacher of what I had learned, and I called upon people to listen to me in a group, and I spoke with this sense of announcement, heralding a new way of seeing the world. And that was my sense of the 5th mystery in my life. Mystery 6 is the deserter from the Navy, Aquarius 3, and it represents the principle of rejecting inappropriate authority. And this is much more my way of being. Despite having been trained to some small extent in the traditional teachings of Sufism, nevertheless, there was a part of me that was a deserter, never willing to accept the tyranny of a system that didn't really fit my needs. And I found myself going against the traditional teachings and presenting my own spin on the Sufi tradition. And I came up with the 7-word system, which is my view of what the 7 planes of consciousness, a traditional Sufi teaching, would mean when it's actually taken into an everyday and ordinary context. So I could not have done that had I not this spirit of deserting the tradition. And so I found Aquarius 3 to be very helpful in that respect. Now, Mystery 7 for me is Pisces 25, the purging of the priesthood. Now, this is basically about ridding oneself of negative thoughts. So, the original teachings that I started to develop were moving in a certain direction. And when I became really very clear indeed about what it is that I'm trying to say, it became obvious that I think that optimism is it. Faith, optimism, expecting good things to happen, looking for the silver lining, therefore, ridding yourself of negative speech patterns. If you find yourself thinking something which is just not positive, instead of being led by that thought into a negative state of being, affirm an optimistic state. So if I feel a negative thought coming on, I pray, Bismillah, and reverse that process. So I really train myself to purge the negative thoughts out of my being. And therefore we can see this whole set of 7 Sabians, the last one being the yes in the 7-word system, the sense of sinking into the mystery. And the mystery is the mystery of faith, I found. That works for me. If we just recap over those 7, the 7-word system requires us know first to set scope in your life. So the scope of my life excludes that which I am not. And that means I'm a teacher. And I'm a teacher that needs to find his own method. And hello is I got to find a guide. And thank you is I want to appreciate everyone and everything that comes my way and respond enthusiastically to that. And goodbye, the 4th mystery, is the Jewish rabbi, the traditional teachings. This is what I'd made a decision about, to let go of all the clouded thoughts that were confusing me and take on traditional, tried and tested teachings. However, in Mystery 5, in Please, I wanted to ask people to collaborate with me on discovering a new way of knowing knowledge. And in Mystery 6, I'm sorry, that the word for 7 words is sorry. I don't get it the traditional way. It doesn't work for me. I have to clear out of my mind all the links to a way of being that doesn't agree with me. I have to desert from that, to leave that. I'm sorry. So I upset a few people when I did that. I did it as gently as I could, but nevertheless, I did upset a few people who were expecting me to continue. And then we came to the 7-word yes, which is the surrendering, the sinking into the mystery. And that mystery is optimism, is faith, is looking for the silver lining. So if you take all of these as a composite set of Elven Star images, I find myself to be a teacher who can't teach traditional method. I need to teach my own method. And that, in summary terms, is very simple. It's actually an old-fashioned idea. Have faith. Look for the bright side of things. Look on the bright side. It's very simple. And the way in which I've approached that through the Sabian Mysteries and the 7 words is what was necessary for me to find it. Now, it's difficult to remain in any high state of consciousness when presenting a video, as I am. So in in the context of this exercise, I can't really demonstrate the full power of the exercise. But if I was to be on retreat and to do this exercise, and basically this course is completed by a retreat process, I would meditate, and I would perhaps do some practice and get into the highest state I can of spiritual consciousness, and just present this package of information that I've just explained for you in a very succinct form. And I've written some words down that I can read out. I would perhaps maybe give them a greater deal of attention and memorize this if I was on retreat, just to move into the highest level I could. But you'll get the idea of what I'm attempting here if I say this, that I'm a teacher who, having followed others, whether traditional or modern or casual in guidance, I found it necessary to find my own way with the presentation of knowledge. And I'm fulfilling a deep imperative to speak against the system and to come up with my own ideas about how to replace any negative thoughts I may have with optimism and faith. And this is my soul's journey. This is what my soul has come here to learn, how to do that, how to go through that whole process in order to find this simple truth of just being optimistic and doing it my way. And it might sound so simple and so straightforward that I should have got this ages ago, but I didn't. I only really came to this understanding about who I am on the deepest level through the study of the 7-word system and the Sabian symbols in the Elven Star.